Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. Today, we are discussing an extraordinary 2021 launch in only 20 pieces in titanium. This is the Grand Seiko Spring Drive SBGA449, the Lion's Claw, a watch with multiple lion-inspired elements. We'll get to all of them in a moment. The first thing that I need to emphasize is that this Lion's Claw case design, which I believe debuted back in 2019, is 44.5 millimeters in diameter, 14.8 millimeters thick, and from edge to edge, the lug-to-lug measurement is 49.7 millimeters with a broad 23 millimeters between the lugs. Now, being basically all titanium sapphire, it's a light watch for its size. And you can see on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, it fits, but I think just because of the proportions and the shape of it, particularly the shape of the lugs, I think you need a wrist of my size or larger to wear this well. Zooming out a little bit, you can see it does fit just fine on my wrist, and it would fit fine on your wrist if your wrist is 16 centimeters circumference or larger. But if your wrist is smaller, there are going to be some proportional issues, and I think that's important to emphasize. Now, it's not a thick watch, and it's not a thin watch. It will fit underneath jacket cuffs, maybe not the tightest dress sleeves. Ordinarily, I don't put too much stock in straps. They are service replaceable. They are wear and tear items that will be cycled over many times in the watch's lifetime. But what we have here is a strap that is worth preserving, and a strap that is worth repurchasing when this one eventually reaches the end of its life, because I would only ever want to put this watch on its factory intended strap. This is really cool. So what you're looking at is what they call a lion's armor motif. We have a combination of what they call crocodile leather in gloss dark blue with yellow gold paint in between the scales. So that yellow gold paint is designed to evoke the armor of traditional Sengoku fighters in Japan, where you would have the natural hide, and then in the recesses along the graining of the material, you would have this gold paint to create a stunning two-tone effect. And I have to say, like every Grand Seiko strap, it is just buttery, even though it's not broken in and it's fresh from the factory. It's a gloss finish. It is bolstered or stuffed to give it volume. It has a folded edge and a monotone stitch. And then we have this suede-like application on the bottom that is wonderfully silky. You can see no crimping, no gouging, a factory strap right here in brand new condition. And we have a single fold deployant clasp in steel, twin trigger release. You press the two triggers and it opens up, giving you security on the wrist. Now, this case design is described as the Lion's Claw case. And you can see it has sharp angularity and contrasting facets, some in satin, some in polish. It is in titanium, what Grand Seiko calls high-intensity titanium, which we take to mean something equivalent to conventional watchmaking grade 5. So it's lighter than steel, but it's also more scratch-resistant than steel. There are a lot of fingerprints on here, but there are very few marks on the case of any kind. So the mirror-like finish created by the factory's Zaratsu manual tin plate polish, that is all intact here. The tin plate polishing method, perfected by the artisans at Grand Seiko, entails holding the surface to be mirror finished against a spinning tin plate, and it takes about 3 years to master this craft, which means that this is an artisanal handcraft lavished on a watch at a price point that, at least in Europe, would not buy you a handmade watch. But that's exactly what this is. This is the type of flawless mirror finish that the Swiss would describe as black polish on very tiny movement parts, but Grand Seiko gives it to you on an entire case. Now, we do have a screw-down crown here, plus 200-meter water resistance. Grand Seiko is one of the few brands in the mainstream luxury space that still expects its users to do a lot of strap swapping. So we have strap tool holes in the flanks. You can see the Grand Seiko logo on the crown with both media blast and polish. And then we have a lovely iridescent metallic base to the bezel that has a sapphire cap on top, which creates a lustrous, deep, and rich aesthetic, much like a Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Then there's a flange or a rejo inboard for the dial, described as the lion's mane texture. And you can see, if you look very carefully, that there is a texture to the dial base that has the sort of billowing, voluminous flow of hair across a lion's mane. And then I've often said Rolex and Grand Seiko in the mainstream luxury class have the best dial quality in the business, co-equally, but for different reasons. At Grand Seiko, it's because all these little pieces of dial furniture are cut and polished and faceted and finished manually, and then they're placed manually and hand caulked. So this is a handmade dial. Rolex dials are equal in quality, but entirely machine made. That's how they achieve their perfection. This, in my opinion, has more soul, and we have a genuine gold hand at center, gliding in the characteristic fashion of spring drive, which has no ticks, no tocks, no steps, and no stagger. It is the only system in the world that has perfectly smooth gliding, not the illusion of smooth gliding, but the real thing. There is no shortage of lume, including the entire bezel, which I love. And then we have a power reserve indicator for the caliber 9R15, 72 hours of automatic winding power reserve. Let's screw out the crown. You can see there is a hacking or stop seconds function. So you can stop the watch and set it against a reference time. There is also a quick set for the date. Now I mentioned this is caliber 9R15, not 9R65, so you get an upgraded timing standard, and you know that this is something special because you see this solid gold Grand Seiko lion, a recurring theme on this watch. That little medallion means that rather than being accurate to 15 seconds a month like standard spring drive, this 9R15 is accurate to 10 seconds a month. The system works without batteries, capacitors, or stepper motors. It includes a mainspring, mechanically wound, a drivetrain, mechanically driven, and a quartz oscillator that times the whole thing. So the drivetrain from the barrel turns this unidirectional governing wheel, which generates an induced electrical current in a magnetic field that activates the quartz oscillator, which acts as a feedback mechanism using magnetic braking to slow down the governing wheel. The governing wheel, in turn, is geared directly to the drivetrain, the three hands, and the date jumper. So it is quartz timed, but mechanically driven. You can see some elements that I like, including the bidirectional pawl-based magic lever winding system. You can see one of the pawls on the pawl wheel right there. You can also see the little forged and exquisitely detailed click for the ratchet wheel atop the barrel. You can see 30 jewels. And this is a watchmaker-built, watchmaker-tuned, and when the time comes, watchmaker-serviced movement that will last for life. Not just your life, but the multi-generational lifetime of the watch. Though it is quartz, it is not disposable. Don't make that mistake. Don't make that assumption. A 20-piece limited edition is truly limited, exquisitely made with pride in Japan. This is the Pride-inspired, and by that I mean lion-inspired, Grand Seiko SBGA449. Email Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.